Joining me today to unpack this conversation is Krishna, the CEO and co-founder of Fiddler.AI, a company that is helping enterprises improve their AI models not only to be smarter but more accountable. Welcome, Krishna, and thank you for joining us. Let us dive deeper into your journey so far.
Thank you, Rishi. Lovely to be on this podcast in this beautiful city of Hyderabad, and looking forward to the conversation.
Let's step back a little bit. Tell me about your journey, your childhood. Where did you grow up? What hobbies did you have?
Absolutely. So yeah, I grew up in India, in Andhra Pradesh. A lot of my family lived in Hyderabad, although I'm not from the city, a few hours from the city. Done my undergrad in India in computer science, and then went to US for my master's degree. And after doing my master's degree in computer science, I have started working at Microsoft on the Bing search engine, and that's where I got introduced to the world of machine learning and AI. Because back in the day, I'm talking early 2000s, Microsoft was building this search engine from ground up to compete with Google, and one of the things that they were investing at the time was in neural networks for search ranking. So I got the opportunity to build small 2-layer neural networks that power search quality, essentially sort the search results in a ranked order and optimize for like search relevance, and got a chance to work with a lot of great people, Microsoft Research and MSN Search. And after that, came to the Bay Area, worked in a bunch of different technology companies like Twitter, Pinterest, and Facebook. And then 6-7 years ago, I started Fiddler with one of my co-founders.
And so let's go back to 2018 when you have this incredible journey so far, worked at all big tech companies. You're at Facebook now. What prompted you to start Fiddler? How did this come about? What part you were missing at that time?
Yeah, so I think for me, working in Silicon Valley and startups was always like a dream. I mean, when I was growing up doing undergrad in engineering, I think the first time I heard about Silicon Valley was when Hotmail came about. And of course it was established by one of the Indian founders, and so of course the story spread quite a bit in India at the time. And after that, and after going to the US, always wanted to be in the world of startups. So got a chance to work at Twitter when they were still maybe 100 people or so. And it was a great experience, being part of like this early team and working with super smart people, but also people who are willing to take risks was something that very interesting experience for me. And so that journey sort of continued, when I went to work at Pinterest, and so the idea was there to start a company at some point, but it was unclear what to work on. From my experience perspective, I've always been a sort of a system software engineer, building backend systems, for search infrastructure, data infrastructure. So wanted to do something in the space of enterprise where offering platform as a service for developers. And when I was working at Facebook, I was given the responsibility to build sort of infrastructure for ranking engineers. And so I was part of the newsfeed team, which is sort of like the big sort of cash cow for Facebook, really, if you can call it, because that's what you see when you go to Facebook app. You see the news stories and that are presented in a relevant and personalized manner, and the ranking team their responsibility is to order them to personalize for your interest. And as part of that experience, my team was building tools to explain the ranking models, to set up experiments, to monitor the experiments, to create tools so that engineers can measure the performance of these models and understand what's going on. And so that experience is what led me to start Fiddler, because the hypothesis was AI was going to be this new software artifact that was going to go into the enterprise, and we were very early with that bet in 2018 itself, and we felt like you needed a new set of tools to develop, deploy, monitor this new software artifact, and we found that observability and monitoring was something that was like a green space, and and we had experience building such tools at Facebook. So we wanted to, jump ship and start a company around this and provide observability as a service for the enterprise customers. And so that's how we are. We've gone from machine learning to LLMs now to agents. So it's been a journey over the past 6-7 years.
It's been amazing how AI has evolved over this past 6-7 years and how the stack is completely evolving and changing. How do you think that AI observability is different from other kinds of observabilities, from the Datadogs and Splunks of the world? How is Fiddler different?
Absolutely, it's a great question. So I think one of the most important things is that with AI, the nature of software itself is changing, right? So, until now, the traditional software is mostly, rule-based, right? So you write code, which is instructions to the computer, and the computer exactly executes what you say. And there's no non-determinism here. There's no fuzziness here, right? So it's very deterministic. It's rule-based, and you exactly know what's gonna do. So observability there deals with errors, catching errors, monitoring for performance, monitoring for reliability, latency, right. Things that traditional software would go wrong. But with AI, the software itself is becoming non-deterministic, right? So think about like an agentic workflow, right. Where a simple agentic workflow most customers are building today is something like a customer support chatbot that goes and queries like a third-party tool like Zendesk, retrieves customer information, and then sends it to a large language model, summarizes it, and presents it to the user, right? So here you're making like a system call, like a tool call to a third-party API. You're making a call to an LLM and summarizing. And the entire sort of orchestration can also be directed by intent classification and other LLMs. So this is a very simple agentic workflow. Now, in even here, you can have a situation where the models can hallucinate. They might actually provide an incorrect response. They might sometimes retrieve or sort of showcase private information that the user should not be seeing. So there, or they might be sort of, you may have a nefarious user that is jailbreaking into this thing and trying to extract information or making the chatbot do something unwanted. And you might be calling incorrect tools or parsing the tool call outputs in differently. So there's a lot of non-deterministic behavior here, right? And there's also dynamic nature to it because your AI application is highly data dependent. You may have trained with a certain set of prompts. You may have tested it with it. You may have found like really high accuracy. But when you ship it to the wild, you have no control into how users use it, right? You have, unless you set up really strict guardrails, users can ask whatever questions and whatever prompts, right? So you have like, it's a very dynamic, application. So these things actually, and also it's a black box, like what is going on? Why is it particularly selecting a particular tool, or how is it summarizing, or how is it, sort of answering this question? It's still a big black box with the human. So those are the things that warrant a new kind of observability. We need to think about observability from ground up, right? It's not just about measuring server reliability, CPU utilization. Those are still important, but there are new kinds of metrics that you need to think about here. Hallucination metrics, safety metrics, sort of how is like the tool usage happening. And so that is what Fiddler is focusing on. And that's what makes us, kind of a category builder here in this space. You can call it like the new observability for the AI age, actually.
No, definitely for enterprises, things like security, reliability is very important. And especially when you work with customers in highly regulated sectors like healthcare, defense, fintech. So what is on top of their mind when they are moving to these kind of systems?
Absolutely. So generative AI is really picking up in healthcare, right? In healthcare, there's so many interesting applications that people are building, including administrative assistance. So you can have people are building applications where generative AI can be a note taker, right, and summarizer for nurses and doctors visiting patients. They've invested in AI in measuring readmission risk of patients. Whether a patient is leaving, how likely are they going to come back to the hospital. and clinical diagnosis, right? So there's a lot of new applications that are coming up, and the stakes are very high, right? If you summarize information incorrectly, or if you measure readmission risk incorrectly, there is like risk here. There's a human element of risk, and so observability is paramount here. And guardrails and evaluating your AI is super important. So what Fiddler helps with, we work with some of the largest healthcare companies in the 40 and 50 in the US, and they leverage Fiddler for pre-production evaluation, measuring and testing how the AI is performing while they're developing, production monitoring, so that they can observe, they can get an alert if, like, say they're seeing, like, some hallucinations increase and whatnot, and then setting up guardrails so that they can prevent this in the first place and catch them. So that's on healthcare. In financial services, the big segment that's been our focus from day one. They have some really fascinating applications, from fraud detection, anti-money laundering, KYC. So these days, a lot of people are building agentic workflows for KYC use cases. In fact, I was meeting some customers in India where, let's say I'm trying to like build sort of a lending or a mortgage product for small businesses, and I'm a fintech company here, and we were talking to one of the largest fintech companies here, and so they were building an agentic workflow that could automate KYC, where they could establish the veracity of the small business existence, where the agent could call a Maps API, Google Maps API, and verify the existence of the business and see if, like, this, and then sort of establish the KYC part of it. And so there also, it's very important that those agents are performing well, they're reliable, that they're making accurate decisions. And so that's where Fiddler, is very important for them.
Now I can understand, like, specifically the healthcare example. Doctors spend a lot of their time getting back to the context because they have to meet like 30, 50 patients a day. They have to get up to speed, then make notes, and then recommend this thing. But so for a buyer like that, or someone who is running a company, they want to ensure that there is a business actually there or not. How do you these are very risk averse people, right? Like, okay, it's cutting down my workload, but can I actually trust it? Was the symptom actually there in patient X or Y?
Yeah.
Like, how do you convince them to move to these systems?
So fortunately, every CEO right now in the world wants to adopt AI in their company, right? And when they look at products like ChatGPT and others, they want to leverage similar experiences in their business workflows. So there is a huge amount of impetus coming from the top to adopt AI in these organizations. And so then the question is, like, when you think about an AI leader or a CIO in an organization, they are kind of stuck in between these two problems. One is this fear of missing out, where they're receiving a lot of top-down impetus to like implement AI. And the other thing is, we call it fear of messing up. So we call it the FOMO and the FOMO.
Yeah.
The FOMO is already established. FOMO is, if you do something wrong, if your AI goes and does something wrong, and there are problems that you need to face, right? So we are, and that's where Fiddler is like a good addition. It's people can build agents very quickly these days, right? You've got great foundation model providers. You have at least 3 or 4 to pick from. You've got good sort of orchestration frameworks that are available in open source today that you can leverage to build these agents. You've got good data platforms where you could ingest data. A lot of the enterprises already gone through the journey of modernizing their data stack, and so you've got like those fundamental elements. Your data layer, your modeling layer, your orchestration layer is sort of like pretty much established. What is missing is the observability layer that helps you ship these agents or AI apps to production in a reliable manner, right? Because it's 80% of the building the agent is it's sort of like, you can say easier, but like it's like there's a path toward doing it, right? But how do you measure the quality of it? How do you make sure you're able to test all the corner cases? And then how do you then deploy to production, monitor it continuously? How do you put controls around it, governance around it? That is the part, that is the hard problem right now. That's where we are focusing.
Now, I can totally relate with that, because like, when I think today it's very easy to build and tinker with things. So experimentation is very fast.
Yeah.
Like if I want to make something, some AI agent, it'll write the script for me, make the connection for me, very easy to make it. But from that, I want to step back on that journey from experimentation to production.
Exactly.
How does that happen for an enterprise, especially if they are, bigger size? There is a lot of more risk.
Right.
So can you walk me through the journey?
So we're working at a big technology company that is trying to modernize their entire customer service experience, right? So I've got thousands of human support agents that they're both hardware and software provider in the valley, and they are creating agents that help provide insights into renewal, risk, support, sales aspects of their products, right? And so these are like really compound AI systems. I call it compound AI because they're not just one single model doing the job for you. It's like it's a composite AI workflow where you have an agentic workflow where you may have a human query that gets translated into some sort of a SQL where you federate it and retrieve data from some databases. You may be calling some CRM tools, retrieve user information, and you may have some predictive models that you've created, measuring customer churn and sentiment of end users, so using HR, and you combine all of this information using an LLM, right, and summarize it to your human support person. So this question could be as simple as, let's take a simple example. Is this big bank going to renew our contract or not? Right. Now that could be a support person asking that question, and behind the scenes that this whole compound AI workflow that is getting executed. Right. So when developers are working on this thing, they might be choosing, let's say, like they choose a LangGraph or like a DSpy or Pydantic or any of these agentic frameworks to build this agent, right? And then they may have maybe calling tool calls to like Zendesk or Salesforce, ServiceNow. They may have data in Snowflakes and Databricks. They may have like churn risk models that are already running and providing predictions, and they may have a foundation model provider. Maybe like they're working with OpenAI or an Anthropic. So they build all of this. The orchestration is happening all of this, right? Now, when they want to shift this agent or this agentic workflow, they want to first verify how effectively does it answer these support questions, where would it fail, why would it fail, right? And then when it actually gets shipped, can we monitor it? Can we make sure that we are able to know when things are underperforming, when things are going off the rails? And how do you set up controls around so that we are protecting the company's reputation, or we're not providing incorrect guidance to the users, right? And so that's where they're today, right? In fact, I was talking to this AI leader at this company. He was like, look, 80% of our stuff we know that we have problems with, 80% of the agents that we're building, but we don't know where they are. Being able to trace through that. So this is why tracing is super important, right? Being able to collect all the logs and find out where the issues might be happening, where repeated failures are happening, so you can see patterns and then fix those things. That is the problem today that most of these companies are facing.
Right.
And once they solve it, then you move these POCs into production, right? Because that's why there's this whole situation that some people think a lot of the AI stuff is still POC mode, which is somewhat true, especially when it comes to enterprises. But our job at Fiddler, we believe that our job is to unlock that. We want to help enterprises ship AI to production. And that's where we believe observability and the control layer will be very important.
Yeah, it's definitely exciting to see how these systems are unlocking more value and people can do more with this. So you talked about compound AI and how this agent observability, how this whole stack is changing so fast. How do you convince your buyers from a technical and also a compliance standpoint?
Absolutely. So we started our journey from model observability, right? Where it was a single model. Maybe you have an underwriting model or a fraud detection model that is making predictions. And we were measuring statistics like, okay, is the model drifting? What are the feature importances for these model? What is the quality of data coming in and out of the model? Things that are important from a single model perspective to measure the performance, right? Now the world is moving from single model to multi-agent systems, right? This compound AI workflow that we talked about, where the failures can happen anywhere.
Right.
The failures can be system failures, it can be model failures, it can be a combination of both, right? And so the observability piece is become even more important for the enterprise buyer. So when we go and sit down with a CIO or a chief AI officer, we start talking about where they are on their AI journey. And fortunately, most people have with the whole sort of world thinking about it, they have done a lot of foundational work already, right? They at least have 10 agents that they're either building or trying to put into production across different use cases. And so when we go meet with them, we sort of showcase how we can integrate with their existing stack, because Fiddler is not solving the entire puzzle. We are focusing on the observability and the control layer. We need to be able to hook into whatever stack that they're using. Maybe they're on Databricks, maybe they're on Azure AI, Amazon Bedrock. And we have been able to establish partnerships over the years. For example, last year at reInvent, Amazon advertised us as the tier 1 observability partner. We have a native integration with Amazon SageMaker and Bedrock. And we have a great partnership with Google on Google Marketplace. So with NVIDIA, we have a great partnership. So we are able to essentially become an observability add-on to each of these AI platforms. So that gives optionality for our customers too, because they can say, okay, they can, sometimes they would use multiple cloud platforms to build their AI applications, right? So but from an observability and evaluation perspective, they could leverage Fiddler. And it could be a neutral third party that is giving you, okay, which LLM is better for which use case, or how a particular agent is performing in production from a third party neutral perspective. And that's important from compliance as well, right? And so when you think about, when you read the guidelines of EU AI Act or other compliance guidelines, they talk about things like, look, you need to preserve the privacy of data. You need to have continuous monitoring of AI. You need to make sure that it is not making any unfair decisions in a manner that it's discriminate to the users. And you need to have some transparency and auditability into your AI, right? And Fiddler provides all of these evidences for our compliance team, so that they can go back in time and say what happened, why did this model do what it did, or why did this agent do what it did. They can audit it, they can get reasons behind it through our root cause analysis. So we provide all the evidence that is required by compliance teams to meet, either EU AI Act or other, similar regulations that happen coming up across the world.
Now, definitely, as AI systems evolving so fast, agents getting better, base models are getting better. We are sort of lagging behind in terms of compliance, and we have to keep up.
Right.
And observability is really important there. What I want to ask here is, as these systems get more and more sophisticated, they can do more. How is the infrastructure today lacking, or what can we do to move faster?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think there are a few things, right? So of course, the models are becoming larger and larger. So there's a lot of investment happening in, compute and others. We have a great partnership with NVIDIA team. So they are really advancing the state of compute infrastructure and how fast you can train and inferencing of these models, right? And they've this interesting products like, NVIDIA inferencing microservice and whatnot that they're working with. And we have a great integration with NIMS as well. And so there's of course the compute layer that needs to be really robust. There's of course the data layer, where how can you make sure that all of your structured and unstructured data can coexist? How can you train and sort of bring that data to compute and train these models and sort of build these large language models more effectively, right? And then there is the orchestration piece that we talked about, where in order to build these compound AI systems, how do you build this new non-deterministic software artifacts, aka agents, that call multiple tools, call models, bring data, and orchestrate everything and bring this application to life. And the fourth layer is the observability evaluation stack, which is the measurement, we almost call it the cockpit view of your airplane, right? Where okay, you've got all of your airplane parts but in order to fly it, you need to know what's going on, where you're heading, how's your AI performing. And so that is the part I feel like that's where we are leading the charge. Right. And once we have all of these four layers intact, I think enterprises should have all the infrastructure necessary to go and ship AI in a big way and scale it for many applications.
Right. So Like, I understand that there is a lot involved here. These agents are evolving themselves. They need to talk to multiple systems and all. So how do you, when you go and talk to an enterprise, how do you change your messaging when you're dealing with so many things? Like you might be dealing with the security team, you might be dealing with the CEO, dealing with the tech team to understand what systems they use. And so how is uh, dealing with so many stakeholders at the same time?
Absolutely. So I think right now the emphasis on enterprise is to essentially to get AI out to production. So a lot of the CIOs so there's this new job title called Chief AI Officer that has come about. These people are being responsible for building the AI infrastructure, this stack that I talked about, the data model orchestration observability, right? And and so they're spending time in cobbling together this stack and and helping providing it as a platform so that their internal teams can go and build these AI applications and launch to production, right? So that's their responsibility. Of course, then there's the security teams like the chief security officers. They're making sure that, okay, look, I mean, we are building all these AI applications. We want to make sure that they're not creating additional risk for our company. There could be a security risk or compliance risk, or any other GRC related stuff. And so they want to have a view into what's going on, right? They want to know how the AIs are performing, the applications are doing, and are there any security risks that they're creating? Is it hackable by a hacker who gets some proprietary information and what?
We have seen so many examples.
Exactly. We have seen like recently, big, food chain company getting hacked and, leaking private data. The famous case of, Replit, going and nuking customers' entire database. So the security teams are concerned about it, about those things, right? And so it's a balancing act. For us, like observability is important for both, right? It helps the AI infrastructure, AI applications teams to deliver AI faster in a reliable manner, right? It unlocks the capability of AI. It helps the security teams to get that visibility into what's going on. So for us, it's like, most of the time when we engage with one of them, they would bring the other into the conversation. And the CISOs like the fact that, we are able to provide them with this dashboard, quote unquote, that they don't have to go and bug the AI teams or AI application developers. They can just look at Fiddler dashboard and understand all the different risks that their AI application might be going through. And that's kind of like the go-to market motion that we are running, and so far it's been very successful. The enterprise buyer is really hungry to deploy AI, right? And they need to unlock the capability, and they're coming to us. Yesterday I was talking to one of the largest financial services company, and they had built some in-house observability systems today, but they don't see them in the long run scaling for their for the growth that they're seeing, right? And they want to be able to have a governance view. They want to be able to have an admin view where multiple lines of businesses, what each of them is doing, how their AI applications are doing, a global scorecard of all the different risks, hallucinations, PII, security risks, or general quality scores. I think that's what Fiddler is able to deliver today.
Right. And I understand that all these different people would be concerned about different metrics.
Correct.
And that's how.
Yeah, like a lot of the AI engineers, they want to know about the quality, right? They want to make sure that that's why evaluation is so important. They want to be able to write custom tests so that it's almost like the TDD, the test-driven development of AI, right? Where you can write multiple evals, to measure how the quality of your AI application. And Fiddler supports that. They can write different custom evals today to be able to run it against your application and see how it's performed. And then if you kind of talk to the compliance and security teams, they're concerned about the prompt injection attacks, jailbreaking, PII exposure. So you need both of them.
Right.
So I used to work at Bing Search, right? We would measure relevancy of search results, but we would also measure the spamminess and the junkiness of the search results. So the goal for us was always to increase the relevance and to reduce the spam and junkiness.
Right.
So you need to do both to be able to successfully ship an AI product.
Yeah. And definitely, like, I think we are in for like a huge productivity unlock, as I said before. And different people are concerned about different things, but this is a time to think of something from the ground up. As you said, like AI is changing how we think, and it'll make us move a lot faster. So we talked about security, we talk about LLM evals, and I'm sure there is ML ops involved here. So where do you think Fiddler is sitting, and what is like your vision in 5 years from now? What do you want to do? Do you want to go deeper into this stack or?
So we are building the control plane for AI, right? No matter what form of AI you're building. Most of our enterprise customers have existing machine learning models. Some of them have invested in deep learning capabilities like computer vision, advanced NLP, and of course LLMs and agents are the new thing, right? We are building one single command center, a control plane for all forms of AI. So where you don't have to have multiple different tools to monitor different forms of AI. With Fiddler, you'll get one cockpit view, with whether it's your machine learning models, let's say you're a bank, you're doing fraud detection, or you're building wealth management, trading applications with like agentic workflows, or maybe you're doing computer vision for some use cases or speech recognition. So you can measure performance and quality of all of your models in one place. So our goal is to become that control plane for AI systems. And the fact of the matter is, when it comes to compound AI and agentic AI, it's a combination of both LLMs and machine learning.
Right.
For many intent classification stuff, people are using machine learning models to be able to do routing of agentic workflows. So machine learning is not going away. And it's here to stay. And then you have all these large language models that are there to do all the complex reasoning and summarization tasks. So it's a model garden that is coming together, and to have an observability platform that gives you from very coarse grain insights to like very fine grain into what exactly happened, which tool call failure has happened, or whether intent classification model has made an inaccurate prediction, or whether an LLM actually made a bad summarization. You should be able to know what's going on in the full trace of everything.
Yeah. So what do you think, like, as the base models are getting bigger and bigger, will they eat up some of the stack?
Look, I mean, there is no model that is 100% perfect, right? I don't know if there will be ever, right? I think by definition, models and AI are stochastic in nature, and these are probabilistic systems that will make mistakes, and there's no 100% accuracy or success rate. So which means that you need to have observability to make sure that these systems are performing correctly. And it's almost like that, going back to the example, as we implement AI for high stakes, highly regulated environments, you cannot just like leave it running without any sort of supervision.
Exactly.
Right? And you cannot put a human in the loop to supervise every single AI application. That's just not going to scale. So you need to automate it. And so Fiddler essentially helps you automate that task. It helps you automate that observability, so that with a limited set of humans, you could monitor all of your AI applications with the help of Fiddler.
Right. Yeah, definitely. Like to break down a task that a human does, there are a lot of nuances that are involved, and we need to build complex systems that are okay with this. It's very easy for an individual to experiment with an agent and say it can do this, but for enterprises, the reality is a little different. You need to be careful about regulations and security. So let's talk about a little bit more about your journey. So you were in Silicon Valley in 2018, and now you got a team here in Bangalore as well. How do you see the ecosystem in India has evolved, and about Silicon Valley as well?
Oh, it's been amazing, right? So we started the company in 2018, and then I think a few years down the line, we acquired a small company that was working on model observability of Bangalore. We found a great team there, and they became part of Fiddler. And now that small team of 4 people is now 25 people. So we were able to bring in some amazing engineers and working out of Bangalore. I think the ecosystem in India is amazing, and thanks to the last 15 years of innovation and startups here that are scaling to like hundreds of millions of people. You have talent here that knows how to build distributed systems, how to build scalable infrastructure, for a large number of people, for a huge amount of data, traffic, and all of those patterns, right? And a lot of what we do in terms of observability infrastructure is systems building. Right. We need to be able to scale for all of this data. We need to be able to process this very quickly. Our guardrails have to work, within 100 milliseconds so that we can catch those errors and give them to our customers. So, we've been very lucky to have this team in Bangalore that is helping us. I think in general, over the last 10, 15 years, the startup ecosystem has developed in India, right? So there's lot of people who are willing to take risks and join small companies, and especially in Bangalore we see that, and they want to be part of something great, and they want to be part of that adventure, and which has been there in the valley before, maybe even before, like for many decades, and now we're definitely we've been seeing this in Bangalore for the past 10-15 years for sure.
Yeah. So if you want to compare like the Bay Area with Bangalore or Hyderabad, what would you say are some of the pros of being there versus being here?
So I think, of course, in the Bay Area, you have, the magnitude is much higher, right? So you have a lot more startups, a lot more people, who are coming there with the intention to build companies, and you then, you sort of, you're in that vibe continually, right? In fact, so ever since I've been living there for the past 15 years, you sort of go on the Caltrain or be in the city of San Francisco or go to these meetups, you're constantly in the vibe, you're hearing new ideas, the energy is like amazing there, and I think that helps a lot, for people to get going and sort of like, and I think there's also support ecosystem,
right?
Startup journeys are not very straightforward.
Right.
There are a lot of ups and downs, and being able to lean on support, either from your investors or from other friends that are building startups is super important, and Bay Area has that. And I see that similar patterns happen in Bangalore, and I think Bangalore is no less now, compared to, there have been some amazingly successful companies that have come out of Bangalore, and there have been entrepreneurs that have been able to crack it, and so I see a lot of parallels between that. When it comes to Hyderabad, I kind of compare Hyderabad to Seattle of kind of how Seattle and Bay Area is different, Bangalore and Hyderabad different. Hyderabad has amazing talents, a beautiful city, and great infrastructure. What the city has been going through in the last 20 years. I think there's some amazing companies. We have got a lot of our customers have set up their AI teams either in Hyderabad or Bangalore, right? And so whenever I come here and I get a chance to meet with them here and talk to our users in person, I think Hyderabad, could do with one or two, homegrown successful startups that could really trigger that sort of the spirit of innovation and risk-taking mentality. Because at the end of the day, doing a startup and leaving like a cushy, great job is not an easy decision for many people, right? And I think if you have an ecosystem of people doing it, then you're more likely to take that risk and do it. And if you see people winning, you're more likely to sort of take a chance of that. And I think that probably has to happen here, in a manner that Bangalore was able to do it, so that we can replicate that environment here.
We here at DVC are like trying to be a part of that ecosystem and help.
Absolutely. I think, from the last few days being here, the kind of ecosystem that you guys have created, I think you can pioneer this. You can lead the charge and identify those entrepreneurs who are really hungry and who want to, do whatever it takes to be successful.
Yeah, we understand that both all these ecosystems are evolving and they're all important. There is an advantage of being in Bangalore. There's an advantage of being in the Bay Area as well. And we believe that you have to balance this relationship and leverage the most out of it. So you said that startup journeys are not linear usually. Do you want to reflect back on a point where which was pivotal for Fiddler?
Absolutely. So when we started Fiddler, we focused on explainability of AI, right? So that was what I was working at Facebook on, and I felt like that was going to be super important, and it's still very important. We found like a good market in the regulated industry with explainability, especially for very high stakes AI, and we built some really cool tech in our product that can explain very complex deep learning models using gradient based techniques. We have filed patents around those algorithms, and we those products are now being used by, say for example, US Department of Defense to identify defects in the computer vision models, right? But from a market opportunity perspective, we had to expand to sort of model observability to cater to the wider MLOps market, right? And so we sort of like in the 2021-22 time frame, we sort of expanded our product to this ML monitoring model observability product where any ML engineer, whether they're in regulated or unregulated industry, they could leverage Fiddler for monitoring drift, setting up alerts, and being able to continuously look at data quality going in road models. And so that helped us go from like kind of the 0 to 1, identify at least a piece of the product and market, and that we can do some repeatable sales. After that, the whole sort of LLMs happened and ChatGPT came about, which has been a seminal moment in AI for many of us. And we had to continuously expand our product to like LLMs, and now the metrics for LLMs are different, right? So you need to be able to compute whether the LLM is hallucinating or not, which is not an easy thing to do, right? And whether it's leaking private information or not. So we invested in technology called Fiddler Trust models, that are these small language models that can be vertically tuned on domain-specific data sets to catch these issues for you. And so that investment paid us in big dividends. So we now have these family of Fiddler Trust models that go and they can run on-prem on customers' environment in a secure manner, and they can in a cost-effective manner judge for hallucinations and NPI exposure. And then now we are in the world of agents, where we are mixing all of it, with where AI is becoming a true application, right? And so now you need to measure things like other failures, system call failures, tool failures, and how the tool failures are intersecting with model issues, and provide a holistic view and traceability of into the agent performance. So that's been the journey that we have been on. And during this time, as an entrepreneur, it was a continuous learning, right? So we had to rewrite our backend, completely, in the middle of the way, where we had to, sort of rework the team dynamics, as we sort of scale the company, bring in new people who could scale with the company. So I think that's been sort of the journey that, as any other startup goes through.
You also, any startup is not just one person doing things, it's a bunch of people together, a team working towards a vision. And it's important to have good backers who believe in your vision, good investors who help you. Like we were talking offline, how there are lots of stories of bad VCs and bad investors. So how has your relationship been with your investors, and how did they help you?
Yeah, we've been extremely lucky. Me and my co-founder, we both, went to grad school. We know each other for 20 years. So, we've had a great relationship over the past 6-7 years. And he has been leading our GAU business for the past few years. And that's been spectacularly working out well for us. And in terms of like investors, we've been lucky to get Lightspeed, Lux Capital, Insight Partners, kind of the 3 key board members. And each of them have sort of brought in their unique experiences. Some of them had operational experience from before. Some of them had, really deep, like, investing experience in various different startups. And then, a lot of strategics, including you guys, like from Dallas Ventures and a few other strategic investors that have been really hands-on, either helping us recruit people, we, executives, we brought in a key executive recently with the help of our board, or like, connections with like, sort of customers, helping, so provide confidence to customers, because, for a small startup to win enterprise confidence is not easy, right? Most of the time, there's this saying that, if you buy IBM, you'll not get fired. There's this saying in the enterprise, right? So like, how do you convince an enterprise buyer that you need to take a bet on startups? So I think that's also where our investors were really helpful, and also in general. So on a day-to-day company building, being able to provide advice and providing the right mentorship.
Yeah, let's double click your relationship with Dallas VC, and where all have they helped move the needle beyond just capital?
Yeah, absolutely. So I got a chance to meet with one of the partners, Ravish, a few years ago. He was a good friend of our chief scientist back at IIT Madras, and I think he has been really instrumental to kickstart the relationship. And after that, of course, I met with several of the partners, including the Akarud, and I think they've been really helpful in sort of in a few ways. Essentially, Dallas VC has this great advisor network. A lot of C-suite enterprises are, they have this network of folks that they could introduce. So whenever we are working with like an enterprise company, we can lean on their help, right? Make an introduction or to connect to an individual that could help us. So from a go-to-market perspective, it's been really, really amazing relationship. Even 2 days ago, we had a CXO dinner in Hyderabad where I got a chance to meet with several, AI and platform leaders here. So that's always amazing. And then in general, sort of just being able to like talk to folks and periodically and sort of exchange notes, being always available. And that's what you want, right? Because you want your partners, investors to be on the journey with you and to be available for you.
Correct. Yeah, that's what we call it DVC Advantage Network. And the idea is that people who are building innovative stuff should be able to get it to enterprise faster through these networks and all. So that is what the DVC has been doing, and we do it for both startups across India and US. So, closing thoughts. If you wanna give an advice to a young Krishna or some young founder who is tackling with this world of agents, what do you think about the world ahead, and what advice would you give to an entrepreneur?
I think with agents now, it's very clear that we are entering into the new technology wave, right? This could be as big as the internet wave or even bigger, right? Because it's fundamentally transforming all of the software. So it's not an incremental addition to like software. It's almost like software 2.0. We talked about the non-deterministic software, right? So if you sort of see the waves, right, I've probably been in the industry for 25 years now. So in the 2000s, there was like people were building many web applications. You had like, in every era, you needed like you needed tools for developers to solve problems. Like, how do you observe your applications? How do you orchestrate or integrate with other applications? How do you provide identity and security? So there are these 3 or 4 key pillars that you need to solve. And let's say in the 2000s, you had the likes of, say, HashiCorp or like, New Relic or like, solving the problems of identity, observability. And you moved into the cloud and big data era in the 2010s, where companies like Databricks emerged, right? Where you can scale your data pipelines, you can, orchestrate it. There was this introduction of microservices, which really helped Datadog, the companies like Datadog, to come and, observe your cloud services. So we are now going into this AI era where there's a new tool stack being built. So I think any developer right now needs to be familiar with this new tool stack, right? Like, what do you look for? What is the right orchestration framework for you? What is the right observability system for you? What is the right way to establish identity and security of your agents? How do you make them interoperable? So I think if you see carefully, there's interesting companies being built in each of these layers. And so there is like this new tool stack that you need to be able to familiar with to be able to bring them together to build and deploy these agents. And we are sort of leading, we believe that we are leading the charge for the observability in that sort of 4 layers.
So very exciting times for people who are building things, because we are again building a new stack. And so I wanted to ask you something personally. So with agents and AI, what application are you personally most excited for?
Yeah, I think there are a few things from a professional perspective. I think anything that makes me more effective in workplace is quite interesting. For example, I was just sharing this idea with someone else here, right? So where, we have like a plethora of Slack channels in our company, and I'm like I'm of the mindset I want to be on top of everything, and I want to know what's going on with everywhere, and it's very difficult. And as the company grows, to stay on top of everything. So being able to like have an intelligent assistant that can scour this information, email, Slack, and provide me the right insight at the right time so that I can react or respond to it, would be very helpful just from a workplace productivity. And I believe that it probably would hold true with many other executives or managers in the industry. From a personal point of view, there's so many boring jobs that I hate doing, like filing taxes, making travel plans, things like that are not very exciting. I wish like we go into an age where agents and AI agents would automate many of these boring tasks for us, where where we could just like give the task and then the high level description, and an agent can reliably do it for us, right? And I think that is what I'm hoping for, because I feel like AI can give us that time back from the drudgery of like the life, right? Like, and so that we can spend it in some form, in more creative, or maybe spend more time with family, or like spend time in a much more qualitative way.
Then I'm also very excited for agents that help me make my life easier, right? And more than that, I'm also excited for a future where AI is into robotics, so embodied AI, and it's not just on the digital or software stack, but it's like coming into the real life and having an impact there.
Yeah, absolutely.
Krishna, thank you for joining us today and giving us, reminding us that in the new era of AI, trust and transparency is like the core building block of how we progress. And we here at DVC love to partner up with visionaries like yourself who are reimagining the entire software stack. So thank you for having this conversation.
Thank you so much, Rishi. I'm glad to be here. Lovely podcast. No, thanks for having me in the guest.
Great. Thank you. Thanks.